Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Kingfisher Knits Podcast. My name is Madeline. I am a very keen knitter and I'm a knitting designer and a knitting pattern tech editor. I'm originally from the UK, but I'm living currently with my family in Zurich, Switzerland. And if you've watched my previous episodes, you might notice a slightly different aesthetic going on right now, and that's because I'm filming in the evening, which is something I haven't done so far, and I generally prefer to have natural light, but life has been really busy. It's more than 2 weeks since my last podcast, and I didn't want the fact that I couldn't do a daytime podcast for several more days stop me from doing an update. I will put down in the description box below all the places that you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry and my own website. I think that's everything that I normally link below. And the show notes for this episode will be in my Ravelry group. I will put the direct link to there. The Ravelry group is the Kingfisher Knits group. So I do think I have a quite short episode today, mainly because I have been knitting quite a bit, but I can't share most of it. But I do have still quite a few nice things that I wanted to share. And the first thing I wanted to do is to get the, I'm saying an awful lot. I feel out of practice already. There we go again, terrible. The Patronus KAL wrapped up. So I had originally had the deadline at June 15th. I decided to extend it to June 18th. A few people had contacted me, and there were quite a few people still who said that wouldn't be long enough for them. But I decided to wrap up the KAL as I had said I would. So it was meant to finish on Sunday, the 18th of June, which was yesterday. I didn't close the post until basically just now, so there was an extra nearly 12 hours for most time zones, so even people in America. And this was in case you didn't watch any of my other episodes, you want to go back and have a look, go back to the first episode, which is where I showed this shawl in the most detail and was when I had released the shawl. This is the Patronus shawl. It is knit from tip over here to tip over here, so you cast on and bind off only 7 stitches. And it's a really, really fun knit, changing colours. This was knit in yarn from Nora George, and she made kits for this. And if you knit a shawl using a kit, you've got 2 entries to the KAL. Even if you knit using any Nora George yarn, you've got 2 entries to the KAL, which means you could post your finished object photo twice in the thread. So, cut a long story short, when we had I did a random number generator, we had 28 entries in total, and I have these 2 prizes. So one prize is this skein of yarn, which is from a yarn shop which is local to me, Spinnwebstube. This is a lovely sock yarn. It is 75-25 wool nylon, but it's extra fine wool. It does feel a little bit more rustic is the word people tend to use than a merino, but it's still soft, and it doesn't feel, for my perception, as rustic as, for example, as sturdy, that sort of rough feel as you might expect from a regia or an opal. It's a bit softer than that. And this is this lovely skein, which is basically black with these beautiful pops of colour, which should make an interesting effect when you knit a pair of socks. It's 100 grams, 420 meters. So the lucky winner of this prize, and I will throw in a few other little goodies. I do always say, and I do try, it's summertime now, it's 32 degrees here today, hence why I might look a little bit on the flustered side. When you send a package from Switzerland, I think it's against the law not to include some kind of chocolate. Anyway, the winner of the yarn was entry number 4, so a really early one, and that was JMAR2180, so that's JMAR 2180, which is Jordan from Ontario in Canada. So the best thing to do is if you PM me on Ravelry with your address, and I will get that sent out to you. I will not be shipping super quick, but it will happen within the next 2 weeks for sure. And the second prize was this lovely project bag. This is a generous, definitely a 2 skein project bag from Jessie Marie Makes on Etsy. This was her lovely, I think now she has business cards because I bought this from her very early on when she just basically started. Isn't that lovely? So I'll include that probably in there. This was what came tying up the package. And with that, there were some little stitch markers and progress keepers. What I'll do is, I did say I would split at these. So a few of them will go with the yarn prize and some others will go with the bag prize. This has a lovely lilac polka dot lining. And the winner, sorry, I just was completely like looking at my notes thinking, what does that mean? Sorry, the winner for this was post number 21, and that is Rosie McW, so ROSYMCW, which is Rosie from Essex in the UK. So again, if you would PM me on Ravelry, I will get that package ready to be sent out. So 2 lovely prize packages there. And what I've decided I'll do, I know there are a lot of people who are still currently knitting the shawl, and if you want to post pictures of your shawl, I'll leave the chatter thread open, and probably at some point in the future I might pull another little prize from there. And I'm also going to pull a couple of pattern prizes from the Instagram hashtag Patronus shawl. So if you carry on posting pictures of your shawls using Patronus shawl, even in progress shots, will also be in chance in the running for some pattern prizes of my other patterns. Okay, admin out of the way. At this point is when I like to show finished objects. I don't have any new finished objects, but I wanted to show you a finished object which I haven't shown you before. It's lying behind me here, and it was my very first self-published design. It's called the Antonia shawl. It is more of a shawlette in that it's a 1 skein shawl. It starts here with a very few stitches cast on, and it's an asymmetric triangle shape. So it makes quite a nice little sort of scarf with a bit, more length. Obviously here, sorry, the usual problem. There we go. Here with, oh dear, we're not having any luck, are we today? And it's too hot to put it on really. So in this part here, it makes sort of the point of a triangle. I will say that it is a long time since this was blocked. I blocked this when I originally took the photos, which was probably a year ago. No, not quite a year ago, but I think early autumn last year. And what has happened, as always happens, especially in shawls with garter stitch, I find always that they shrink back a bit immediately, and then they sort of continue to shrink back a little bit over a bit more time and with wear. And the bottom edge of this shawl has a scalloped edge, which when it's freshly blocked, you really see these sort of points coming out for this lace pattern here. But I can show you the lace pattern nicely in this section here. And the rest of it is garter, and there's a little eyelet section in the middle here. It's a 1 skein project. I used yarn from the Knitting in France. This is her MCN sock base, and it's absolutely lovely. It's really one of my favourite cashmere containing bases I've ever used. I have worn this shawl an awful lot. I have not gleaned it. Yes, there's a slight halo which comes when you block anything with cashmere in, but there is absolutely no pilling whatsoever. And this was, so I've highly recommend her yarn, but this is a really good summer knit because it's just 1 skein of sock weight yarn. It's a great project to bring around with you, and I have the instructions both charted and written for whoever has a preference. And I also do mention in the pattern, if you have more yarn and so you want to knit it bigger, I tell you how you can make the garter sections longer, and the stitch counts you need to have to start the other section, so what multiple of how many stitches, so you can make it your own. But I haven't calculated for how much yarn you'd need for certain different amounts. But if you're willing to sort of wing it a bit and make it a little bit bigger, that's certainly doable. So that's the Antonia shawl. I named it after one of my best friends from school, and who I actually also went to university with, so I've known her for a very long time. She's called Antonia. And I don't know, when I was knitting this, it just made me think of her. I think she used to have this beautiful cream jumper when we were at university together, and she would often wear it with these kind of colour jewellery. And I don't know, when I was knitting on it, I would say to my husband, this really reminds me of Antonia, and so it was called the Antonia shawl. So that is in my Ravelry shop. So that is the only FO to show you. And in terms of whips, I've been working a lot on my shawl design using the Trailers yarn, which I'm just going to show very briefly again, and also a lot on a secret project which I cannot share. So I'm sorry. But living in my Mrs. Brown's bag, like it was last time, is the shawl that I'm making with lovely yarn from Trailers. And these were 5 beautiful mini skeins, of which I now have very, very little left, as you can see. So I'm uses up the majority, if not all, of a 20 gram mini skein, and this is all that I have left now of my the 100 gram full skein that I had. This is Warhol, and let's see if I can remember the colours here. This is, oh, I have them written here, but I know which one's which, I just sometimes forget. Okay, so this orange here is Svadhisthana. This yellow is Manipura. The purple is Doomy. No, the purple is not Doomy. The blue is Doomy. The purple mauve is Yarngasm, Kristen's favourite colour. And the bright pink is Fight Club. So I only have the very last section to finish. I had to put this down because I had some deadline knitting to do, and it is over 80% done, I think 85% done, so probably in very little time, once I sit down, probably in one session or so, I will have this finished, and then I can block it and get some photos. Anyway, here it is. Lots of lovely colour. All right. It's been really a pleasure to knit on. It's just been flying off the needles. I mean, things like that where you get a chance to play with colour and a little changing it up with stitch patterns and what have you. I just couldn't put it down. And with the colour in summer, it's really felt perfect. I have quite a bit of acquisitions, some of which were purchased and some of which were not, and none of which are yarn. But I'm going to start with a little gadget that I bought, and everybody seems to have one of these, but if you don't, you should. If you're a keen knitter, certainly if you design, it's been something I keep meaning to get, is one of these little pocket scales. It fits really nicely in the project bag. This one goes up to 200 grams, so maximum 200 grams, and I wouldn't have any yarn to measure which would weigh more than 200 grams for sure. And it says it goes to accuracy of 0.01 grams. To be honest, I wouldn't trust it down to 0.01, but certainly to 0.1 of a gram, and that's good enough for me. So I really love this. It's working really well, and I've been keeping it with me in the project bag while I've been knitting on this shawl, so that I could keep track. I mean, I had already calculated how much yarn I would need, but it meant I could keep track really accurately what I was actually using. So I highly recommend that. I bought mine off Amazon. Can't remember if I just said that or not. I bought it off Amazon. Another lovely thing arrived in the post. Oh, look at the glare. There we go. Everybody is getting pom-pom. I haven't purchased a pom-pom magazine before. I have flicked through several, but this one, given that it was the bumper edition and for exactly the same price as the normal edition, I could not say no. There are beautiful patterns in here. Many people have already been showing these off. The ones which absolutely caught my eye before I bought the pattern at all, before I bought the book at all. The first one is absolutely the Bonbon Mittens from Joji Locatelli. You see there, you'll see I'm curving the paper a little bit there. But they're so beautiful. I love the use of twisted stitches, those cables and the little pom-pom. Everyone who sees this thinks that those little pom-poms must be so impractical. Maybe it will be, but I'm at least going to make one and attach it when I make them, and see how annoying it is or not. And if it's not too annoying, I really would love to keep it on because it looks so cute. So that was absolutely prime pattern number 1 that I found really interesting. I really like this hat, not least because I think it's really unisex, that you could, depending on the colours you pick, you could make, like this one, for example, for me is already unisex. You could, of course, pick colours which would be more girly or even perhaps more masculine, but I really like how it looks, and I like that it's got potential for anybody. You could make it for anyone. The texture on this one by Vera Valimaki is absolutely amazing. I have no idea if I would make that, but I do love it. I mean, if I was going to make something like that, I would really seriously consider this one. I didn't say that the hat is Bash, and it's by Linda Dubeck, the hat that I was showing before. The mittens were Joji Locatelli. I think I said that. It appears that recording at the end of the day is not a good idea for remembering what I said 2 seconds ago. I also really like this hat, which is called Hoopla and is by Diana Waller. I presume it's Waller, maybe it's Waller, but that's what it would be in Germany. Anyway, again, a lovely colourwork hat. And again, I think personally that could be unisex. It's a touch more feminine for some reason with the stitch pattern, but generally being graphic, I think it's really nice. And I also really like this top. And I think for me, I showed it to a couple of people, non-knitter friends, and they were very sceptical. I think that for me personally, I don't like particularly the colour scheme chosen here. There's nothing particularly wrong with it. It's not me. I mean, orange I tend to steer away from, certainly in a garment. But I think it's really interesting, the construction and the effect it gives if it were done in a different colour, a different set of colours. I think it could be really interesting. It would certainly be fun to knit. And this one gives a bit of a 70s feel for me. And this is by Francesca Hughes. So, and it's really nice. I've been working my way through the articles when I've had time, and I also really love this, you see there with the light on it. The lighting here, the lettering here is sort of this, copper rose gold. I love rose gold. Always wearing rose gold. So that was a really lovely addition to the bookshelves. Now, I've also picked up some gadgets. So I have never had a pom-pom maker. I have made a couple of pom-poms, I think just wrapping it around my hands, maybe once wrapping them around cardboard. And I would like to try those lovely little clover ones, but they don't sell them in the shops here. I've never found them. And when I once looked to order them, I was totally put off by the shipping costs at the time to Switzerland. But here I was just in my local supermarket, and there is Chibo. So Chibo is, I believe, a German company, and they sort of have these sort of shopping cafes. So you go in and they have various ranges of products, which are all branded Chibo. And you can get a coffee and a slice of cake at the same time. And they have them in Germany. We also have them here. And you also have them within supermarkets in Germany and in Switzerland. In Switzerland, they're in the Co-op supermarkets. Not all of them, but the bigger ones. And actually, just about less than 10 minutes walk down the road from me, there is one in a supermarket. And they often have little crafty set products. So I thought I'd give it a go. It was pretty inexpensive. It has 3 pom-pom makers, which certainly work on a similar principle to the clover ones, although they look a bit less engineered. So I hope that they'll work. I will have to give them a go. A very lovely thing which arrived. Sorry if you can hear crying. I have my windows open here. There are still children outside playing, even though it's pretty late here, to be honest. And they often tend to shout very loudly, regardless of the fact that it's almost dark. Anyway, I did a swap with a friend of mine she's Vicky Bird in the UK. She's Vicky Bird Designs on Instagram, and I believe also on Ravelry, and she has a Ravelry shop. She does really, really fun designs, predominantly but not exclusively designs for children, both garments and accessories, blankets, and I would say she specialises in intarsia and making really fun, bold, different designs. She's featured quite frequently in the Knit Now magazine in the UK, and she does also have designs, non-children related designs. She recently came out with a lovely collection of sock patterns, which I believe are called the Knit Night collection, and they're really, really fun. She's made quite a lot of sock patterns as well, which I've also seen featured in other in magazines. And we comment on each other's photos a lot, and I was knitting that pair of socks out of hedgerow yarns, which I was complaining that I was using 2mm needles. They were higher steels, so not the very sharp point, 2 at a time, and I found that I tend to use 2.5 or 2.25 needles, and I found that using the 2mm needles actually gave me a looser gauge because I found them so unruly, and she knits on 2mm needles, and so I said, look, she commented that she had a pair of 2mm higher sharps, and I could have them if I wanted because they were too pointy for her. Now, while I've just said I wouldn't want to knit again on 2mm needles, I do knit 2 at a time, and I often I knit the first cuff, I transfer it to another set of needles while I knit my second cuff before uniting them on the main needle I'm using. And for that, smaller needles are better. So that's what I was going to consign my higher steel 2mm needles to doing. But she said that I could have the sharps, and so I said, well, would you have use for the steels, so they're not too sharp ones? And she said yes. So I said, well, I'll send them to you when I'm finished with the socks. And she said, why don't we make a thing out of it and make it a little swap? The very sad story of this is that I sent off her package over a month ago now, and it never arrived. I'm still holding out hope that it might appear. I'm a bit upset because when I made my very first project bags, one of them is, there. I made 2, not the same. It was not the same fabric at all. It was the very first one I sewed, and I sent that to her. And I was really happy with it. But it seems that it's got lost in the post, and there were other things in there as well as the needles, obviously. So I did tell her that if it doesn't arrive by this week, I will have to just come up with something else for her. Anyway, my package from her finally arrived. That sounds terrible. She sent off her package later. We had agreed a postage date. I just posted mine very early, basically. I got all excited and sent it off. And hers arrived last week. I have Instagrammed about it, so you have seen it, and it's just beautiful. So it's actually a lovely drawstring bag, which nearly all of my project bags are zipper bags. It has this absolutely wonderful slightly turquoisey teal fabric here at the top, and this beautiful print. I really, really love it. She did a fantastic job. She said she liked the fabric so much she got some more for herself. It's got a lovely handle. It has even got, sorry, there are a few things inside which I'll show. It's got a lovely crisp lining, not padded like the lining that I was using, but crisp. A little pocket inside in matching fabric, you can see there, and her little lovely label. She doesn't sell project bags or anything, but she makes all kinds of things and takes great pride in them. And I really, really love it. Thank you so much, Vicky. And there was a lovely little postcard in with that. And she didn't just send me the needles that I thought she was going to send me. So she just said that she had 2mm higher sharps, but actually they are the interchangeable needles. So from their sock sets, needles that they now have. So this is the set of tips. Actually going to take them out because I have a whole set of higher sharps. They're here. These guys are sharp. I know that they're sharp, but when you turn them into 2mm needles, good golly, look at that. They're certainly a weapon. They're incredibly pointy. Anyway, so these are going to be really useful also, I thought, for picking up stitches when you do a proper afterthought heel, when you pick up stitches and cut your knitting, which I tend to do quite a bit. So those are the 2mm. She also included 2.25mm higher sharps, which again she didn't, I guess, have need for. So they're just a tiny bit bigger. And 2 cords, sock cables of the high heart sharps there. In the 80 centimetre and 100 centimetre length. So really useful. 100 centimetre particularly useful for 2 at a time, I would say. But 80 is still it's good for just normal magic loop. Knitting 1 sock at a time, which I do occasionally do. I certainly do it when I'm knitting socks for my kids, because I just find it really annoying to only knit, 15 stitches or what have you, and they're still quite small, and then already have to readjust, then change yarn and everything for the 2 at a time. So I tend to do them individually on magic loop, and also patterned socks if they're very patterned. If they've just got a little feature, not, but if they're very cabled or what's the word? Intricate lace. I don't just want to say lace, I want to say intricate lace. Then I would not do them 2 at a time. So really, really, really thank you very much, Vicky. I feel terrible, although I know it's not my fault, that my package has not arrived, and there will be a replacement in the post shortly should it not find its way to you. Probably what will happen is I'll post off a new one, and the day that I do, the other one will arrive. Anyway, so unless I'm very much mistaken, I'm looking around myself here, I tend to just plop everything I need for the podcast on the table before I start recording so that I don't forget anything. But I'm not seeing anything else around right now. So thank you again for joining me for another episode. I know this one was a bit short and a bit low on the content. I am sorry. I would rather have more to show you, but hopefully next time round that will be possible. So for now, I would just say I hope wherever you are, you're enjoying the summer, that you're not melting. I'm enjoying the heat so far. It hasn't got too hot, and so I'm fine. I'm fine with it being this hot. I like to feel proper summer, and yeah, that's enough for now. So goodbye and good evening. Bye.